media describing society from one of the three theoretical perspectives?
Well, first you have symbolic interactionalism, which is, for one, language. Hey, hi, how are you? It's interpreted throughout society. You see that everywhere in the media and daily. It's also have music.
Doe, a deer, a female deer, right, a drop my golden sun.
Which is also interpreted by society. You also have marriage, which, for example, is symbolism, because the band itself doesn't mean anything, but the meaning behind the band means something. So this means a lot more than what the band describes. It's by the band. You also have structural functionalism, which is the whole idea that society is a huge machine. So Greta would go to school. She'd then give him a job, supposedly in the government, and then she would pay taxes to the government so that her children could go to school to repeat the whole process. And the whole idea of structural functionalism is that if something changes, then the whole structure would change as well, just to keep order. But then there's a different kind of theory that came out, especially during the 1960s, which was conflict, which is the idea that certain groups conflict with society. So in that time, it was like the civil rights movement, and like recently we've had a huge movement with the LGBTQ group, and like we also have the general hippies. All of that is kind of conflict of the society.
Hello, my name is Lion. I asked my friend Julia here to go to a coffee house, a bowling alley, or even a shopping mall, and to describe the culture of the place that she visited.
Thanks for the challenge, Lion. I went to Todd's Coffee House in Iowa, Colorado, and I noticed that no one likes to sit next to each other. They always sit one seat apart, or maybe even two. And it was awkward watching people ask for the same coffee cream or sharing an outlet, even in a video. And so it was kind of something I wanted to break. I wanted to start breaking social barriers. I want it to be less awkward to sit next to somebody you don't know and be more social with one another. We are a social society now. And I also think that it's important to get rid of the fear of being judged by others. So, hi Pizza, my name is Julia.
Nice to meet you, Julia. I'm Pizza.
Burrito. If you were remaking the movie The Breakfast Club to fit Fairview High School, what groups and cliques would be in the movie?
IB kids, unmotivated stoners, motivated stoners, band kids, musical theater kids, dumb athletes, smart athletes, popular rich kid druggies, party hoes, indie girls, church group kids, cafeteria card players, mountain bums, innocent freshmen, corrupt freshmen. What do you think the role set of an American is? If you could, would you change it, and in what way, if you would?
The role set of Americans really depends on what country you take the perspective of. From other countries, we tend to invade other countries' privacy. We tend to be known as a stuck-up nation, and our role set is to drive fancy cars, have really nice homes, and very, very Fortune 500 company jobs. Whereas the role set for an American tends to revolve around the pressure that society puts on its citizens. It tends to have this role expectation to improve your status and continue to improve your role set. The role set include studying, being a student. It's now the typical thing to go to a school, to get an education. That's our role set as an American. So it's really important that we as a society can start to change how others view us and how we view our other role set by maybe giving to those who are less fortunate. And I think our role set can also be determined by who's leading the country.
Describe the role of each institution in the shaping of the average Boulderite. Our families influence us to be healthy, to be athletic and outdoorsy, eat organic foods, and be hippie and happy. The government is very liberal. We are also very wealthy. And we support many different kinds of human rights. We have incredible public schools, and having CU in our backyard influences our education system. We live in a well-educated town with well-educated people. We do not have a dominant religion. In fact, we support all religions. We live in a very wealthy economy where there are lots of job opportunities and we can afford to shop at Whole Foods.
Hey, Pizza, do you think prisons work?
Oh boy, Lion, do I have the answer for you. In the past, prisons have been deemed both successful and unsuccessful institutions for different reasons. They're successful because it has made society safer by eliminating the criminal presence in communities and also becoming a source of punishment for negative actions. However, they have been unsuccessful because at times criminals return to a life of crime after release. Currently, there have been many reforms to improve not only prison life but prison re-education. There have been many reforms to improve education in the prison system so that released criminals can contribute to society rather than returning to a life of crime. Another reform that is being put into place is pairing dogs unsuitable for adoption and prisoners. Not only is this beneficial to animals, but because they have someone caring for them and they are no longer being euthanized, but it's also beneficial to the prisoners because they have someone else depending on them and teaching them how to be useful members of society. Hi, Lion. Nature or nurture? Which is it? Defend your answer using credible sources.
Well, Pizza, it's nature through nurture. Only a handful of behaviors are genetically determined, and in the course of everyday life, we hardly consider that important. Can you blink? You see, that's nature. It's your natural reaction. Now, why did you put this box on this morning?
Because my mom told me to always wear my box for school.
Well, that's nurture, because you were taught to wear your box.
I was wondering what the benefits of traumatic events are, like 9/11 and the Columbine shooting.
Benefit is that it increases social awareness. When traumatic events like this occur, it increases overall awareness that violence is an issue in our country and that we are pushing the boundaries as is. The second is that it invokes social change. When these events occur, an example of this is Martin Luther King Jr. or Jesus Christ. They were social deviants in their time, and they invoked change in their society. It also helps people adjust to change. When these events happen, even though they're terrible and shell-shocking at first, it helps people slowly adjust to the aftermath of their events, such as security increasing in airports and overall unrest in the country after a terrorist attack. It enforces current norms, such as terrorism is bad and bombs are awful, and that when these current norms are enforced, it helps people understand their boundaries, which it also clarifies, which is reason 5. As these boundaries of morality are clarified, this all happens through social deviance.
Thank you, Pizza. So, what tactics do the upper class use in order to dominate the other classes, and what changes would you like to adjust in the power of the upper class?
Thank you, Julia. The tactics that the upper class uses to dominate the overall American system is 3 things. Stock ownership, which also controls the primary means of production throughout the United States. Fun fact, 13 out of 122 top companies are owned by one family. This class is also known as the economic elites because their control of the stock market allows them to be in total control of the economy, thus dictating where the money goes and when it goes. Another way that the upper class controls the overall system is political power. These group of people is huge in participation in government, not only through physical participation such as Donald Trump, but also campaign contributions that largely dictate who is getting the money for what cause, and they shape government policy this way.
The changes that we can make to limit upper class power are limiting the amount of stock ownership that one family can have, decrease the amount of political power by decreasing campaign contributions, distributing the wealth, and changing the overall mindset that wealth equals power and total control. This is Pizza reporting.
Men and women communicate in different ways. What are the differences, and why should we know about them, Lauren?
Well, Julia, men tend to define goals as they talk, exert control, and express independence and assert social status. On the other hand, women tend to be more tentative in their communication, more supportive and inclusive, and more responsive to others' ideas and feelings, more sensitive. Why do we know? Because girls and boys are socialized differently from birth. They learn how to have conversations in almost totally different social worlds. Knowing this, we can learn how to communicate with one another better and more successfully.
Section 9, gender stratification. The question is, should we raise gender-neutral children?
We should not raise gender-neutral children. Gender is a huge part of one's identity, and that should not be taken away. Instead of gender neutrality, we should strive for the acceptability for children to choose their own gender and gender equality. A big part of the problem is the large gap between men and women. Closing this gap will help solve the problem of gender inequality and make the need for gender neutrality obsolete. Instead of taking away an individual's right to express themselves through gender, we should make it okay to choose the gender they are most comfortable with and close the gap between men and women. Any thoughts? Discuss the role of white privilege in the United States today. What should we do as a society?
Well, Garita, the truth of the matter is why Americans are much less likely to be arrested, while they are also much more likely to get into college and get called back for jobs. As a society, what we need to do is address the issue. It is obvious that this is an issue, but majority of Americans are denying this. We also need to create a new government that isn't based on racism, which was created hundreds of years